Hi, I'm back again. So, like I said, I did the second rise. It's the same as the first one. So now we're about to get it out, the dough again, to shape it. And then we'll give it another rise, and then we'll be baking it. So in the meantime, though, I also need to feed my starters. Now, as you can see with this jar, I started out with just a little bit here, and it's all the way up here. So this starter's going really, really good. So I'm excited to kind of actually start using it at some point. So this is day 3 of this starter's feed. So I'm gonna have to take out half a cup, as I usually do. And I'm just gonna grab my measuring cups here for doing my feeds. Let me just find another half cup here if I can. I usually have more than one kicking around. Oh, this is a quarter cup. This will do for dumping out the half cup that I need to dump out. Actually, I'll do this one for that. So I have to pour out half a cup, like I said, for this starter. Now I could use this, you know, if you're doing it in the morning, you could maybe use it for pancakes. It's really thick. It's a good, healthy starter, this one. And it's very active. It was very bubbly on the top. Doesn't matter. There, that's the one I'm discarding. So you have to discard some. And this jar is almost getting too small, so I'm going to have to look at transferring this over to another container. So I might actually start looking for friends too who want to take some starter too, because I also have this big jar here. So this is the jar that I used for today's bread. So I'm going to be putting in half a cup into each of them. So that's 2 of these, because it's a quarter cup measuring. 2 and 1. This mouth is a little narrower than the other one. That's the other thing about having a nice big container. You have a big mouth, so you're not always having to worry about spilling powder over or flour over top. Get out my chopstick and just start mixing this around. Oh, I gotta get water too. Oops, silly me. Almost forgot the water. Water in that one. Water in that one. Okay, they've both been watered. Now, time to mix them up. Like I said, you just gotta feed it every day. If you have it out on the counter, you want to feed it every day. If you don't want to have to feed it every day, like I said in my first video, then put it in the fridge and feed it 2 times a week, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Fridays, or whatever day you want to do that. So just a word of advice, you want room temperature water to put into your, or around room temperature. You don't want it too hot, you don't want it too cold. And if you're making your bread on the weekend, take your starter out of the fridge on a Friday, so it has a full 24-hour kind of idea to kind of get back to room temperature. You don't want to take your starter out of the fridge and just start using it for bread or whatever. That's not good. And you wouldn't put a starter that you're just starting in the fridge at all. You'd leave it on the counter and leave it at room temperature. So that's why this one's been sitting out on my counter. And mix this guy up as well. Get this one going.
Well, if the trailer we're selling is 24.
So it's super easy to maintain.
What is that plus tax?
And you always have yeast then ready to go for your bread. And anything else you want to make.
What was the original offer?
Okay, I think that one's incorporated now too. So that's good. They're all both ready to go again for another day. And like I said, it's just like having a pet, you know, you feed your pet every day. So this is a living organism as well. And you gotta feed it every day if you're leaving it out. Again, you can slow down the process by putting it in the fridge. And if you're not gonna bake every day with it, then, or at least a couple of times a week kind of thing, then just keep it in the fridge and feed it a couple of times a week. And then you can use it whenever you want, whenever you're ready on the weekend or that sort of thing. Okay, so let's get this out. I put some plastic wrap over it just to keep it nice and cool because my apartment's a little cold today. So this is nice and warm. It was very happy in here. You can see it's all risen up. It's still very wet. So I'm going to want to put some flour on it. This is the stage where you would put a little extra flour where, you know, you're not going to be quite so concerned with keeping it wet. So I'm just getting some flour on my fingers so it doesn't stick to me. This is not where you want to use the water. That's in the beginning stages there. So I'll just put that over there. And then I'll sprinkle a little bit of flour on here. And it's got a beautiful stretch to it. It's a really, really nice dough. I'm going to turn this down so you can see it here. So hopefully you can see. It's so soft. It feels silky, actually. Feels nice and silky. And this is where you might want to do a little bit of kneading. This is about the only stage where you're going to need to actually knead the dough. You don't want to push the dough too hard. Again, it's a little more delicate than your regular yeast dough. You don't want to really do that with yeast dough either, because what you're doing is you're pushing the air out of it by doing that. And you want a nice crumb to your bread. So you want some air pockets kind of idea. But this is where we're going to, oh, look at that dough. It's just so nice. Oh my God. It's like a baby's bum. So this is where you're going to take your cutter and you're just going to cut it down the middle like that, because it's going to make 2 loaves for us. And I'm getting some flour to put on the wet middle part. So we're going to put this guy over here just for a moment. And the other thing too is you can fit this into your day. I mean, it sounds like a lot of, you know, letting it rest and letting it kind of rise up and that sort of thing. But really, if you want to slow down the rises, like if you don't want to do it every 2 hours, you could do, you know, the first one for 2 hours and then do the second one. You could put it in the fridge if you know you're going to be out for the afternoon or something, and do it 4 or 5 hours later. And the 2 hour thing is just sort of an estimate. It's always good to kind of check the dough and see how it's doing. Because on one I went about 2 hours and 15 minutes. This one I did 2 hours exactly. But I could have left it for 3 hours and it wouldn't have, you know, been upset or anything. Works out fine. So you can work it into your day. Now this one, like I said, this is the final 2 hours. So when I first mix it up, remember I put it for about half an hour just to kind of rest and let it get together. Then I do the first sort of let's get the dough shaped up a little bit, and I let it rest for 2 hours. And then I come back and I do a second 2 hour session. We're now on the 3rd hour. So I'm cutting the loaves into their shape right now. Okay, so there they both are. Now this is the final rise that we're going to do. So you could technically put these guys into their bowls and put them in the fridge overnight, and they can proof overnight if you want. So that's how, you know, if you want to fit it into your day where it's not taking up your whole day. Because right now it's about 5 o'clock or so. So I'll be putting these loaves in at 7 because they're going to be rising for another 2 hours, and that's okay by me, no problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the J cloth. I've got just 2 regular ceramic bowls. I'm going to take the J cloth and and put it in. And this is where flour is your best friend. Now, professional bakers would have like a shaped, usually some kind of a clay thing that has pattern marks on it and that sort of thing. So it kind of creates a bit of a pattern on the bread. Because what you're going to do, I'm flouring up this J cloth here because you want lots of flour in here because you don't want the bread to stick too much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these beautiful loaves and I'm going to put it, that's a lot of flour on the bottom there. I'm going to put it upside down. You want to, because this is where your bread's going to get its shape, okay? And then I'm going to take I have 2 pieces here. So I'm going to take one of the pieces and put it over top of the saran wrap. It just kind of creates a bit of a warmer blanket for it. Then I'm going to fold the J cloths right over top. And I'm going to be putting both bowls on my stove here where it's nice and warm. So they have a nice warm spot. I got to get another J cloth. So this is my second bowl. Whatever ceramic bowls you have around usually work. You're not going to be cooking them in this. This is just for the shape, and this has kind of a nice sort of floury shape. So that's why I'm using this one. And like I said, clean J cloths. I then rinse them out afterwards and just use them as dish rags. You can get them super cheap at the dollar store. There's 6 to a pack for like $1.25 or something. So again, I'll take this second loaf upside down, place it into the bowl, and then I'll put the saran wrap over top, and then we'll just put it to bed. And so for another 2 hours, I'm going to be waiting another 2 hours before I put it in the stove. Now there's a special way that you do the stove, so when I come back, that will be the next video, is showing you how to bake up your bread and how to put it in your stove so that it cooks up, because sometimes people get it to this stage where they're ready to put it in the oven and they cook it up as if it's regular bread. One of the biggest mistakes that people make with cooking bread is 350 seems to be the standard time that most things are baked at. And you want bread hot. You want a hot oven for bread. So you want to get it nice and warm. So I'm going to be putting the oven on in a little bit. And I'll come back when we're ready to put these in the oven. And then we'll get them baked up and you'll be able to see the final product. Okay, so like I said, this is another 2-hour wait, or you can put it in the fridge and just leave it overnight. It's very hard for sourdough to overproof. You can't really do that with other yeast breads because they do tend to overproof. And then you get really hard, kind of crusty kind of bread, as opposed to sourdough, which it slows down the leavening process a lot, especially with the wild yeast, I mean. And then you can sort of leave it overnight, and then it's not too risen and it's not ruined by morning time. So, but this time I've decided I'm going to wait for the 2 hours, and I'm going to put it in. It's going to be around 7 o'clock by the time I'm putting it in. That's fine. It's early evening, so we'll have nice fresh bread as a bedtime snack if we want it. Okay, I'll see you again soon. Bye.